So I was wondering, with the mask being such a factor in this, was it almost a situation where you had to split your performance into two elements, or did you focus on the voice while you were behind the mask as well?
No, it definitely had to be one and the same thing. I found that if you approached it in a technical way and thought about how to move the mask and trying to express the character just through the mask didn't live or work. The mask only seems to work when it is part of the human being behind the mask. In other words, when the thoughts and feelings that that person has are expressed and the mask is part of that face, and therefore the movements of the mask are part of what he's saying.
Right.
And so on the day we had to get that performance in order to recreate it in ADR studio in post-production.
So in terms of like your theater background, do you think that helped you with the like physicality and the sort of like portraying the role through?
Look, I guess so.
Actions?
I mean, I've always chosen to work in theatre and film, and I always have done, and I hope I always will. And I think they inform each other in a really positive way. If you do theatre, I think it can inform film work and vice versa. I think there's a lot that theatre actors can learn from film acting and from certain from the notion of just being on film.
Right.
Theatre actors can learn, and film actors, I think, can often learn from experiences on stage where you need to just find the essence of particular qualities within a character and, if you like, augment them in some way or in some style, so that there's still a truth to them, but they live in a slightly augmented way, you know. So,
Right. What really appealed to you about playing this character?
well, firstly, the ideas that he expresses were really important, and the ideas of the whole film. There are so many of them, and I mean, there are some very coarse, there are some very central ideas, but there are a lot of issues the film raises that appeal to me instantly, that speak very much to the world in which we live today. But the other side was just the challenge of working in this mask and humanizing the mask. So those two elements really were the things that appealed to me most.
From like a personal standpoint, do you think terrorism, violence are ever necessary in the world to propagate change?
Well, personally, I would advocate taking Gandhi's lead, I guess, and that non-violence is probably the way to go. And I don't think violence. I think violence does beget violence generally, but what's important is that we understand why people are forced into states where they feel that violence is the only answer. I mean, if you're living in an oppressed state where you cannot practice your religion or cannot practice the sex you want to practice or cannot speak out or live under curfew or are being shelled or bombed or can't vote or and that goes on for generations, then after a while, yeah, you're going to get violent, and that's what happens. And so it's a natural result of oppression. Even as much as you may not want to do it, that's what happens. And that's why we have things, that's why we label people terrorists today, because they feel that they have no other avenue or no other way of expressing themselves. But it's an unhelpful label, I think, terrorism. It tends not to help you understand why things are happening.